Hi everyone, this is Petrangelo with another MTT strategy video for Poker King. In this video, we're going to discuss ICM, or the independent chip model, which is a concept that's been around for a really long time without much information on the topic and with a general lack of understanding and also a lack of agreement among the community on how to interpret what this concept means. Let's just do a basic definition of what ICM is. And basically, it means you're not playing a cash game and you're not playing the beginning of the tournament anymore. There's a fixed prize pool, and now as you get closer to the money in these tournaments, so if 100 people started in 20 cash, once you get down to 40 people left, 30 people left, you really need to start considering the fact that your stack, the value of your stack, is being considered now in terms of the prize pool, not in real dollars. So when you bought your stack, you paid $10,000 to enter a tournament and you got 10,000 chips, so each chip is worth $1. Forget all that, that's not the case anymore. Your stack is gonna be tied to the prize pool, which means it's gonna fluctuate. So these three things are big factors: stack distribution, payout structure, and what percentage of the field cashes. Like I said, if there's 40 people left and 20 cash, that's 50% of the remaining field cashes. We're gonna think about stuff like, if I'm a huge stack, I probably don't wanna clash and play a huge pot with another huge stack when we have a lot of EV already kind of staying away from each other. If I'm a middle stack, probably the similar thing. I wanna maybe avoid the big stacks as much, less than I would if it was the beginning of the tournament. And also, maybe there's a little bit more pressure on short stacks now, but nothing crazy. As we move on from 50 to 65% of the remaining field caches, these factors get more intense. And then ultimately the most extreme is a bubble situation, meaning there's 19 people left and 18 people cash. That's where you're gonna have the most ICM pressure, because when you finish 19th, you get 0. And if you finish 18th, you get some multiple of your buy-in back. All these factors are gonna come together and create ICM pressure. And this is what's gonna dictate all of your strategy adjustments. How much pressure is on me that's gonna keep me from being able to value how I want, keep me from able to bluff how I want, and keep me from bluff catching how I want to. So if I'm a middle stack against a really big stack on a bubble, all those factors are creating a lot of pressure for me, where I'm not really allowed to call it off really light against the big stack because he can bust me and then I get $0. I'm not allowed to bluff it off as much as usual versus the big stack because when I'm out, I get $0. That all translates to a big pressure situation for me. Whereas if I cover somebody by a bunch and it folds to me and I'm in the small blind and they're in the big blind, it's the opposite. I have the upper hand in terms of the ICM pressure. No pressure on me, I can put all the pressure on the short stack. So we really want to remember that our three major factors are leading us to ICM pressure. That's going to be a big term in this video series. So once you know your ICM pressure, have a feel for it, what are the general adjustments? Unlike in a cash game where when you fold it's worth $0, when you fold in an ICM scenario, whether you're on a bubble or there's pay jumps or you're in the money, when you fold, it's plus EV because your stack has the potential to increase if somebody behind you busts. So you can fold, let other players behind you battle it out. Maybe one of them busts a tournament, and then the value of your stack with respect to the prize pool increases. So this is a big factor. Folding is plus EV. What does that mean? It means we're gonna play tighter, and it means that we wanna win pots without showdown. So that means tight, aggressive. We're not gonna be defending our big blind wide because we don't wanna go post flop versus stacks that cover us. We don't wanna go post flop really versus stacks that are even just a little bit covering us in some cases. If we're a middle stack, we really wanna stay away from the big stacks. It's super pre-flop oriented. We wanna win without showdown. We wanna be raising bigger pre-flop. So you might see a situation where you have 20 blinds, but you wanna make it 2.5x the big blind, even though when we're playing for chips, we make it 2x because we're raising into the chip leader. And we want to increase the likelihood that we can win without showdown pre-flop. When we're doing things like 3-betting, we want to be really blocker oriented. We're not using low cards. The value of suited connectors and low pocket pairs in ICM situations really go out the door because you want to be in this pre-flop game where it's mostly 3-better folding, a lot of open raising by chip leaders with blockers like ace-x offsuit. You really want to be using ace-x, king-x to open or make your 3-bets with. You're going to see strategies where, because you're facing some wide chip leader opens, you get to use a small 3-bet strategy and use some ace-x 3-bet bluffs. So everything shifts. The combo use shifts to basically just using big cards. You want to block rejam ranges. You want to be really tight to defend against covering stacks. The big thing to remember, again, is ICM pressure is everything. So when you're under a lot of pressure, you're super tight to defend. You just really want to have this take it down pre-flop mentality. Those are the general adjustments that you're going to want to make. Let's just talk about quickly, to conclude, the big mistakes I see all the time. Treating ICM like it's just uniform or binary, ICM's on or ICM's off. I feel a lot of players do that. So when ICM is on, they say, oh, on the short stack, I'm gonna be super tight. On the big stack, I'm gonna be crazy, loose, aggressive, opening jack 8 off under the gun or whatever they wanna do. That's not the case. Like I've already explained, the pressure is everything. Tracking the stacks, understanding when you have a lot of ICM pressure on you. Just understand that it's dynamic and it's changing and it's not so rigid, and the strategies aren't all uniform. They're very dynamic and situations are unique. A lot of players are too tight in certain spots and too loose in others. So they might be too loose to defend the big blind when a lot of these defending ranges are like, you only defend like ace 10 off plus, king 10, queen 10, jack 10, and then you even fold a lot of the lower suited stuff. You never call this stuff like, the middling connected offsuit stuff like 7, 8 off or 8, 9 off, because they're trouble hands that flop weak top pairs, weaker draws. You can't protect your pairs post flop like you'd like to when you're covered in these scenarios. So making sure that you're really tight in spots like that, where I see people defend quite a bit too much. And then on the flip side, making sure that you're aggressive in the spots that you're supposed to be. Because like I said, post-flop going against covering stacks is really bad for you. So instead of flatting around with stuff like suited broadways, you want to be rejamming your, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35 blind stacks in some cases, or 3-bet folding them. You really want to get it taken down pre-flop. So, make sure that you're not being loose passive, because a lot of people think in ICM scenarios, I'm not supposed to bust, so I'm gonna flat this queen jack suited, when you really wanna be tight aggressive and make those rejams. Over adjusting as the big stack or short stack, like I said, not understanding that it is dynamic. So just because you're the big stack doesn't necessarily mean you're always allowed to be complete savage mode. And just because you're the short stack doesn't mean you're just trying to ladder for the next pay jump. So not over adjusting in those ways. Understanding the limitations of the model is probably the last and most and a very important factor. And also just understand that if you do start using some of these ICM tools or talking to other players, everything that's been publicly available for ICM stuff for the last several years, and most of the tools that you can find to get some sort of answers, they're going to treat it as if the tournament ends the next hand, or they have very limited ability to calculate future game situations. So a lot of maybe opinions that you'll hear or outputs that you'll see, they'll be much tighter in some situations than you should be, because it doesn't consider the fact that if you win this pot, you have a very good chance of winning the tournament or getting top 3 instead of folding and finishing 8th a lot, or whatever the case may be. So future game considerations is a big deal, and something that is gonna have to be intuitive and something that you analyze in the moment. That's our little intro to ICM, and next time we'll get more specific with some bubble and final table scenarios. Thanks for watching.